Hi everybody, it's Audrey. Thank you so much for being here. It's day 7. I can't believe we are halfway through already. That's amazing. It's going by so fast, but I really hope you're enjoying it. Today's guest is Kat Martin, and we met a couple years ago on a design team we were on together, and this girl is so talented with pattern paper, and she just uses her stash so incredibly perfect. I mean, she just can match things together so well, and so just go check out her channel because you'll just love what she does with pattern papers and how she just makes such a cohesive layouts with lots of patterns. So anywho, speaking of layouts, I'm working on one. That's probably why you're here. So I picked out this piece of paper from the Dear Lizzie Daydreamer collection, which is probably 4 or 5 years old, and ironically, my photo is of a bicycle ride, and the back of this piece of pattern paper has bicycles on it, and I was also looking for other collections that had bicycle kind of patterns on them too. So I had kind of sketched out a layout design in my head, and when I sketch out a layout design, I always kind of know what photo I'm going to be working with, and so this is the photo I was working with, and I was kind of thinking, so we're riding along a canal trail, and I was thinking of kind of a path or like a trail, so I wanted to do something with some strips behind the photo, and I thought about making them kind of curvy. And I wanted to bring out some of the greens in the photo and really kind of highlight, just a, bright greenery and all the kinds of things we see along the trail. So I went through some old papers, and I was kind of determined to use some of this paper from an old basic gray collection called Junebug. And if you're familiar with basic gray, you know that some of the patterns can be really overwhelming. So I tried to pick a couple that I thought were going to fit in. So the lightest green pattern paper is from Simple Stories. The next kind of greenish one is basic gray, and the last one there with kind of the stripes in the background is actually crepe paper. So I also spent some time going through a whole bunch of different collections, and I swear it seems like every Dear Lizzie collection has a bicycle in it somewhere, like on a die cut or a sticker sheet or something. So I was able to find plenty of bicycles. So I had, like I said, I picked out a couple of die cuts, and I knew I was going to use those. So I'm playing around with these strips, and I wanted to do something creative with, the angles or, like I said, like kind of like a curve, but I just wasn't feeling it. So I'm going to show you this process, and I'm show you the whole thing because, I don't know, you kind of see how it evolves and how my thought process changes here along the way. So I kind of on a whim just decided to put... we'll cut these strips into just little tinier strips and keep the patterns overlapping. And I'm liking this a little bit better. And I thought that the little bits of pattern in kind of these blocks, I don't know, I liked how this was looking, and it was a little bit more creative than just having a whole bunch of, strips behind my paper. And I thought that I was going to add in some flowers. So as I mentioned, determined to use this basic gray collection, I'm going to fussy cut some of these flowers out from a die cut sheet that came with this collection. This is a neat collection. I could not see using like a lot or, big portions of these pattern papers, maybe fussy cutting out a few small elements here, and then definitely probably using a white background because it's just so busy. But it's cute, and I think it's workable. But anyway, I tried to put this on, and I just didn't like the color. It kind of blended in too much with the green, and then I was second guessing myself on if I really wanted all that green in the background. I like to work with green. Green is my favorite color, not necessarily for scrapping, but just my favorite color in general. So I am determined to make this work. So I decided to cut up that curvy piece into strips as well because the curve just wasn't doing it for me and not what I had envisioned. But like I said, I'm liking these blocks better. I ended up pulling out that other kind of striped one with the flowers on it because I just thought it was a little bit too busy with the other papers. So then I decide, instead of fussing around with these squares, I'm going to pick out the embellishments I'm going to work with because that might help me feel better about my background design, and indeed it does, because once I start going through This is a die cut pack from the Dear Lizzie Fancy Free collection, which has a lot of the colors I was looking for. It doesn't have any bicycles in it, but or did I say Dear Lizzie? I'm not. It's not Dear Lizzie. It's Paige Evans for Pink Paisley, I think. Yeah, for Pink Paisley. Not Dear Lizzie, Paige Evans. Anyway, the bright colors in that collection were super, super cute, and I thought that they were going to be just what I needed. So I went through this, also through the 6x6 paper pad. I mounted my photo there on some pink. I had considered doing a darker mount with that navy paper, but because there was a lot of space in my photo that had a lot of dark areas, I decided to go with a lighter matte so that the darker area, so that the photo would stand out more. I think that if I matted it on a dark paper, it kind of would have blended in with the dark areas of the photo. So I am going to leave that as a light pink border instead. So this to me already is feeling much better, and now I feel like my mojo's going because it wasn't at first and I was struggling with those strips. And you know, it's funny because I look at my total recording time for this whole process is about 52 minutes. It easily takes me an hour and 52 minutes to do a page, easily 2 hours. So, yeah, so it might seem like I'm going fast and I get this up, but I spend a lot of time off camera thinking and playing around before I actually record because some of the stuff I do is just boring. And a lot of times I honestly just sit and stare. And when I go to crops and I do that, people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm thinking about my design. But anyway, I went through, like I said, some other things. I found this bicycle paper from an Amy Tan collection. I think it was called Yours Truly. And I cut out one bicycle. I wanted to pick out bicycles of different scales. So here you see it kind of have that big bicycle to the right. That is the acetate. And then the one I just fussy cut out. And then this teeny tiny one from the sticker sheet. So I don't actually end up using all of the original bicycles I pulled out. Just a couple little ones. And the flowers I cut out, you saw me cut out from a pattern paper. The flower die cuts that had been in this collection, I apparently have already used on another page. So I had to fussy cut out some flowers from the pattern paper. And there were a lot of die cuts. Sometimes I go through die cut packs and I don't find too many that I feel go with my page. There were a lot in this collection that I felt went well with this design and this layout. So I'm really loving how all of these bright colors added in really just make the background kind of, I don't want to say go away, but my focus at first, I was thinking, gosh, there's a lot of green in that background, but you don't even really notice how much green there is because of all the bright colored things that I'm adding in. So I think this is pretty much how I end up clustering most of my elements. And like, you know, this page, I'm not doing anything like different here. I'm not using any cut files. I'm not using, you know, I had put gesso on my background, but I don't actually end up doing any mixed media at all. I mean, I do a few splatters here coming up, but this is, again, a pretty traditional kind of page design. So, you know, nothing too fancy, like I said. So I'm just going to add a couple more flowers, and as you know, I work by putting everything down, and then once I'm sure where all my placement is, then I glue it all down. I have 2 packs of these buttons for this collection, and I thought the colors are just so pretty. And I had pulled out the buttons because I was thinking about using the buttons on the bicycle wheels, but some of the buttons were just too big for the bicycle wheels, so I just used them as part of the embellishment clusters. That one piece of green paper was bugging me because it wasn't the exact right shade of green. It had a little bit too much pink in it. So yeah, I changed it, and yes, little bits like that bug me sometimes. So I went and I glued all these background pieces down. I took everything off. I kind of keep them in clusters a little bit. I glued all these pieces down. I didn't even move them. I just kind of lift up the corners and then glue in the middle. And I left the edges unglued because I knew I was going to rough them up with this edge distressor. And I also knew that I was going to go back over and stitch with some stitching lines, which you can see there. Voila. I just used some green, kind of like a moss green thread to go along with that paper. Just some random horizontal stitches. And I'm splattering some coral, some citron, and Heidi Swapp Color Shine, and an old Shimmers, which is almost empty, and a little bit of a yellow. And I did not do pink, and I did not do teal, which are colors that I usually splatter with, because I just thought I wanted to stay with the softer colors for this page. So yeah, so now I'm just going back. When I pull my clusters off, I kind of try to keep them together, and I glue things together before I take them off that I know are going to stick together, and then just kind of cluster everything else around my photo. So I'll tell you really quick about this photo, because really what I'm going to do here is just kind of glue everything down. But we live near the Erie Canal, which, if you're not familiar with that because you don't live in New York, is a canal that was used basically for transporting goods across New York State a long time ago. But the canal is still, I mean, it still has water in it, and people still kayak on it and canoe on it and fish. And there's a lovely, lovely trail that's miles and miles and miles long. I think it's like 90 miles. I mean, it breaks up in some spots. But anyway, we like to go bike riding there. I run there an awful lot, and there's always people on this trail. But it was a beautiful, beautiful summer night. Hot. It was in June, and there were all these kind of little like white, I know it's not cotton, but it looks like little white like puff balls floating through the air. And actually you can see them on my photo. It kind of looks like white specks. But with the sun, my husband and my kids are up there in the photos. You can kind of see their shadows on the path there. With the sun beaming towards me and these little white things floating through the air, and them riding their bikes and the shadows of them. It was just such a pretty picture. So I snapped it and I wanted to capture it. After I did this page, I thought to myself, this isn't very summery. It's a lot more springy. Like the colors are something that I would use probably more on a spring page. So I'm sorry this isn't as summery as I had intended this series to be, but you know, it happens sometimes like that. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of summery. It's a summer activity, so there. All right, so I glued everything down with glue dots and pop dots and foam dots and liquid glue, and I added a few more splatters because I just thought I needed a couple here and there. As I was picking up my stuff to put it away, believe it or not, I actually found a couple more stickers that I thought would go good. I pulled out, I really wanted yellow stickers, but I don't really have any yellow letter stickers. And I pulled out these old Sassafras Last stickers. Of course, I had no A's, and I needed 2 of them, so I used a Q and a G. And then these are the only yellow stickers I had, and they're not even really, they're kind of more like a mustard, and they are old basic gray stickers. So my title is Riding the Canal. And then I just wrote a quick little note, filled in that journaling spot over on the right, the circular one that says So Happy, and that is pretty much it. I did go over with a couple more stitching lines once I had everything glued down, and I added a few more stitching lines over the top of some of the elements just to kind of pull that out a little bit more. And voila! So here is the finished page. I'm loving all those cute little bicycles. I'm glad I got to use them on a page about biking. So again, thank you for joining me. This is day 7, so we'll be on day 8 tomorrow. Please stop by Kat's channel, leave her some love, and check out her gorgeous pages as well. And also, thank you so much, everybody, for all your support and all your comments, and I really, really appreciate it. Let me know if you have any questions.